Hello and welcome back. It's Andy from Folklore Hiking Sticks. I'm out doing a very small circular walk near me. It's going to encompass a community owned wood and wildlife sanctuary, and it'll be following footpaths by a river through a small little Cornish village and back through a woodland, and it's a very charming walk. And if you're ever in this part of the world, I thoroughly recommend it, and I'll have a little bit of a discussion as we walk around it. But it's 8 o'clock in the morning, not early but not late. The Easter holidays are over and everybody's back to work. In fact, on these lanes this morning there seemed to be a bit of a rush for people to get to their place of employment. So that made for an interesting drive in the lanes. But that's something you do get used to very quickly down here in this part of the world. But without any further ado, we'll have a look where we're about to go. I've just driven in off that road through this gateway, and you do have a very small car park here. And as I swing round, you will see a set of gates and fencing, and then you can clearly see the access into the woodland of this community owned woodland it is, and wildlife sanctuary. But I'll take you through. We'll have a look at the notice board and have a little talk there. There are some pretty impressive pine trees here, and the air mixed with the dampness of the river is pretty heavy with that scent of pine, and it's very pleasant. I can actually say that. So this is the board that you're greeted with, and it tells you a little bit about the place, what you can and cannot do. And obviously this is a community wood, which means basically there's a lot of rules, regulations and new things put in place which didn't exist here before it was a community woodland. I've come to this woodland for quite some time, and I did kind of enjoy what it was, but this is what it is now, and things move on, and I can understand this is done for a particular reason. So we have to live with these new changes, and in effect it's probably going to help keep this woodland going in some form, because everything in nature is under threat. So this is my path, and I'm basically going to start up it. If you've watched any of my other videos, you will probably have seen this woodland before. It's one we use with the kids. It's extremely pleasant and the kids do enjoy it. And in effect we do use this just as a small little area to walk in. But as I said, I'm going to include the circular, which includes a village and a further other woodland and a river walk. The track is well defined, and for a part of it you will actually be tracking alongside a river, and it has salmon, otters and bird species that live in it and call it home. And indeed this morning you can hear those birds, you can hear the river. The only thing I can say is if you could smell that heavy scent of pine, it is almost overwhelming here. But we do have a lot of really big trees here. It is actually a beautiful morning. It's slightly overcast, but the sun is trying to poke through. So we'll make our way up this track now. There is a nice pool here, and in the, distant past, or not so distant past, we have actually used this with little dinghies and swam around in here with the kids. But as I said, that's no longer the case, and you're no longer allowed to do it. There is a reason for it, but you know, memories now are consigned to the memory bank, and it does feel kind of a shame that we can't utilise it for those innocent purposes. But it's community owned now, so that's one of the things that has changed. And yet again another sign just to reinforce what can and cannot be done here. Like I said, I have mixed feelings about all this, but I do understand why it actually does have to happen. Not too far from the car park, you come up to this, well, it's a curiosity of a suspension bridge across the river. The kids love it, and it provides them with a load of amusement, but it allows you to gain access to the other part of the actual area you can walk. So you just got to be careful. It's a bit slippery with all the detritus from the trees, the dampness from the river. Basically, as your decking I'm bouncing around a fair bit. You need to hold. It'll probably look like I'm bouncing around on the camera as well, because basically I am. But yeah, if you hold that and make your way across with a bit of, shall we say, reserved, shall we say, carefulness, you will make it across quite safely. And then once you've made it across, you come to the pathway. It can be quite muddy on this particular section, but yeah, just keep plodding along it, and we'll just get this little part of the walk done. Yeah, we're beside the river again, and it's flowing over the stones and boulders in quite a gentle manner. In the winter it really does hammer down through here, and there's a lot of white water. Yeah, this woodland, Stara Woodland, is definitely worth a visit, and you could spend an hour or so easily just milling around the forest here in the trees, just soaking it all in. And it's a thoroughly enjoyable place to be, particularly with the sun coming through the trees. It's absolutely gorgeous. I've been here, and I do have other videos documenting parts of this woodland, and basically myself walking through it. So I'm not going to do it too in depth, because I'm going to move on to the other parts of this walk, but I'll do just enough for you to get the idea, if you haven't seen any of the other videos, what this woodland is about. I'm now on a steep incline. It's loose stone, bit of earth, and should we say some stones like this in the ground. So you do need to have a little bit of care when you make your way up through. That incline we've just come up is steep enough to quicken the pace and make you draw breath, but I would guess if you're young and fit, you could probably zoom up there no problems. But it's still doable, and it's very enjoyable, because you know you're getting a bit of a workout, but it brings you into an area of open ground which has the volunteers who look after this woodland, their facilities just to get out of the weather and store equipment. But sorry for my panting, because I am not quite that young and fit, but we're going to make our way back down this track with a little bit of earnest, because the sky's now beginning to open up into a glorious blue colour, and I want to get on to the other part of the walk. Well, it has really had a change in weather since I've just come up to the top part of this woodland. The skies are completely, well, what you would want for a walk. The sun is beaming through the trees. There's no wind down here, because obviously we're in a valley. I was planning on doing a video of the high ground, but that seemed pointless, because even where I lived, there was a lot of wind today. Even though there is management in this woodland, and it does see a lot of the hand of man, it is still stunningly beautiful. And as you can see, there's another trail up there, but we won't be going on that one, because like I said, I want to get on to the other parts of this actual circular walk. This is easily defined, and yeah, and access is reasonably good. You don't have to be a serious hiker to negotiate any of these trails. A family can do this quite easily. If you have any disabilities or impairments, the bottom part of the woodland is definitely manageable, and you could have a thoroughly enjoyable little walk around there. But that hill I've just come up possibly could be just a little bit too much if your disabilities were slightly more so than what is recommended, or you're recommended for any outdoor activity to conduct. And as you can see, I'm now going down a steep descent, and it's covered in twigs, leaf litter, in mud, and it's quite slippery. I believe I've covered this particular subject in one of my very earlier videos here, but as you can see, they've closed off the original path which followed the river. It does say that's to allow it to regenerate, and they've now reinstated a path this way to avoid further degradation to the riverbank at this particular point in time. So yeah, we'll be continuing down this path, and eventually it'll come out by the bridge that we've just crossed into the car park, and from the car park I'll catch up with you again, and we'll move on to a different part of this circular walk. So I've just made it out of the car park, and it's worth to note that this is very busy in good weather and during normal daylight hours, with dog walkers and people looking for a little stroll in a pleasant environment, which that certainly is in the right weather conditions. The thing to bear in mind is that it's a small car park, there are no facilities, i.e. toilets or food or drink. It is just basically a woodland walk. So if you bear that in mind, you'll have a thoroughly enjoyable experience there. But I'm now, as you can see, on a lane just outside the car park, and I'm going to make my way down to some footpaths. But first I've got to cross a historic bridge. So as you can see, this bridge is really old, and there is an interesting plaque there. Basically a warning against attempting the passage of this bridge without the consent of the county surveyor, and it's something about weights and shall we say use of this bridge. So yeah, not something you see on every bridge now, eh? That's the view of the river back up into the woodland, and we will be heading down in this direction on the pasture ground, and over there is our access to the footpath. That is a really nice oldie world view of the bridge. You can see that plaque discussing weights and things about usage of this bridge. I think you could probably kind of guess that this bridge was probably put in existence well before any substantial weight would have had to go over it. So probably that could be the reason for that sign. But we're at this footpath stye. It's well maintained, and you can just make out faintly in the actual grass the actual track itself and where you've got to go. So I'm actually in the pasture ground or field, and as you can see, this is quite well walked. I've met many a person and had a chat on a hot summer's day here, and sat down with my coffee, and it's extremely pleasant. But if you are bringing a dog with you, always try to remember that it does need to be on a lead for this type of particular walk. It probably goes without saying, but I have encountered a few people that end up having to get as much exercise as their particular dog when they end up having to run after it, i.e. it's gone after a rabbit, bird or something like that. So yeah, it's not really what you want to be doing in the countryside. So yeah, I'll just move over to this bit of river here, and you can actually just see fish, the circles where they broach the actual water. This is private fishing. You can't fish or use this river for recreational use because it does have rights for fishing to particular groups. Now, wouldn't that just be a stunning place to live, with a beautiful view of the river, woodlands, and indeed the pasture. So yeah, we're heading over to this actual footpath sty, and there is a new addition, and I will be glad to see this. Right then, well, you can evidently see you've got the old and the new. Now, this river in full flood, you never used to have access across this, and you used to have to turn around. The river used to actually run all the way up this channel, and because it's so dense and overgrown here, you could never gain access. You had to turn around. I have actually waded across on what I thought was like knee deep, and it was sort of like up to my belly button. But you do have to be prepared to negotiate this particular sty, so it wouldn't be the easiest if you had any impairments. But to the average person, yes, it's extremely doable. You just need a little bit of caution. So yeah, this bridge is an addition which is warmly welcomed, because like I said, it became unpassable in some parts of the winter. And I'll make my way into another small little paddock. And that has a healthy population of rabbits, I can tell you. In a summer's evening, you literally can't walk, or you'd be tripping over them. You know, they're literally everywhere. It's just a short little walk to the next sty, and this one looks to be what is called a kissing gate, where you actually have to open one side. If I can find the latch, you push it open, you slide into this particular box, you shut the gate behind you like that, and that is like a self-closing one there, and you make your way back out. This needs a little bit of care because it's slippery old tree roots, and there you're presented with what many footpaths in this particular area have, which is a granite slab going over a river or stream which is accessing the main river. So in winter, when it's slippery, this will need to be negotiated with care. But yet again, like I said, I've used this many a time. And there we have some bluebells. It won't be long before the woodland we've just been through will be absolutely covered in them. This is an extremely pleasing part of the walk. It's level, it's, you know, easy walking underfoot. You've got the sound of the river, you've got the birds, you've got the odd seagull actually going over. I don't think I've caught the squawking that they make or the noise they make, but yeah. I would have thought they would have been on the coast because it's nice weather. It's usually when we got seagulls here, it's really bad dire weather on the coast. The daffodils here have obviously been in bloom for quite some time, and they're dying back now, and it's just got the seed pods left there. But it looks like there's a healthy population of daffodils right along here. And I've just spotted a nice clump of pansies. And I've been sort of like getting into foraging, and yeah, I'm kind of beginning to look at plants, their names and their particular uses. The river actually makes a severe turn to the left here, and you've got a nice seat, a bridge, and a view down a fair portion of the river. Yeah, on a summer's morning when I've got nothing to do and nowhere to be and I'm out for a little hike, I can quite often be found having a coffee sitting there looking down across the river. But we're going to make our way up this path, and you have to negotiate a few bits of rock, but it's quite easily doable. And we should be heading up here. It can be slippery when it's wet, but it's nothing that isn't, as I said, negotiable by somebody with, you know, any kind of walking ability. There is no guard railing here, so if you do have young kids with you or dogs, it might just be worth a mention that it would be a fair drop down into that river on this particular section of the path, because you are actually climbing up to a road now, and you've just got to negotiate another few little bits of rock here. We have now climbed quite high up from the river now, and you can clearly see we're now about to make our way onto a hard standing road or a lane. And looking in both directions, interestingly, there is a shooting range further down that road system there, and on quiet days and at certain times of day and on certain days you can hear shooting taking place on the ranges, but that's not too off-putting. And I've got a little bit of I'm breathing a little bit heavy because I should be doing a few more hikes, actually getting back into it, which I aim to do this summer. And well, in any case, I'm going to make my way along this road, and this is easy going, and this will bring you into a little village called Riverside. So once you've completed a nice gentle 5-minute stroll along that lane, you'll be greeted with the first sight of housing, and you'll drop down in a steep little gradient into the village itself. You will come upon a arterial road which takes you through the village to two main roads. So in that effect, it can be busy because it can be used as a rat run, but you do need to have your wits about you when you get onto this bottom road. If I was to take that road, I'd end up at Upton Cross, and I could go further up onto the moors. But this road here takes me to the main road. Now I'm going to be walking up to what is the village pub in a very short moment as I round this corner, and it's a good place to eat, and I occasionally have a few drinks in there myself. And we will be walking past a village park as well. Like I said, you do have to bear in mind that this road is heavily used, so always just have your wits about you. On this particular bridge you can look up the river that we've actually just been following, and it is gently just meandering down now, and it passes through the village. And this is the opposite side here. It's got a substantially wider but a lot more shallow here as well. If you go through these gates and make your way through the park and follow the paths, you can make your way into the woodland we are going to enter in a minute. But that pathway can be extremely wet and sometimes flooded, so we'll head back up into the village and take the actual official path. Coming around the corner you can see the pub I was just talking about. And yeah, it's definitely worth a visit for something to eat and something to drink. It is possibly what I would classify as my local, so occasionally I can be found in there. So this is the front of the Manor House pub, and like I say, it's definitely somewhere worth visiting for something to eat and drink. But I have to make my way down here to the public footpath. This public footpath makes its way up through a track between some houses and cottages, and it's got a slightly oldie world feel to it as you walk up here, which is quite pleasant in itself. And it's relatively easy going. Even when it's wet, there's enough gravel on the ground to stop you getting bogged down. And like I said, it's a pleasant walk up through here. At the top of the track, you will pass through some old granite gate posts, and that will signify you're into another woodland. And it backs onto some modern housing, but you will lose that after a short while of walking. So we've reached the part of the track where, as I said, we lose the housing that backs onto the woodland, and now it's field systems and tracks which continue to basically our final destination in effect. But you have a choice here. You can take the left track down to the river, or you can continue upwards and make your way to another road. And I'll be taking this particular track because I do have work later on. So even though I do get plenty of time at home to do what I want to do and do little walks and hikes like this, I myself do actually have to go and earn some money. So yeah, the world revolves around the stuff I'd like to do without it, but realities of living. And yeah, so basically, with a little bit of a time constraint, I'm just going to push on up through this particular part of the track. This actual woodland is quite diverse. You've got hawthorn, blackthorn, holly, ash, oak, hazel, beech. I think there's a couple yew trees in here somewhere. But no, this is what I suspect would have belonged to the farmhouse just up around the corner, and this would have possibly been a part of a shooting ground many years ago, I would say. But that's just me guessing, just by basically looking at the layout of the land here. But in any case, it is quite diverse with the amount of species planted in here, which is quite nice. The first part of the forest I walked through doesn't have that feel like that you get here, which is more native and, shall we say, more older with the native species. The other forest has a lot of what I would call introduced to the area trees. This is definitely more native to this part of Cornwall. And you've got new fresh hazel leaves there, and indeed you've got new leaves here being thrown by this what's it, hawthorn. And no, it is actually all coming to life now. In fact, the holly, like I mentioned in the previous video, which actually stands out quite dramatic, is beginning to lose its place in the woodland as the deciduous trees take over. And I've just got a squirrel there jumping through the actual canopy there, coming down towards me, jumping across the twigs. There he goes. Yeah, the humble grey squirrel is quite a destructive creature in the woodlands. It's not native, and most people are aware of that. Most people aren't aware of how destructive they are, particularly to new young trees, and indeed other wildlife like young birds. It eats eggs, it will take chicks, And even on my bird feeder, when I've had squirrels at it, I've actually seen them try to catch small birds. So, you know, in some respects, I would kind of say if you do have bird feeders up in the garden, try to discourage grey squirrels, because they do look cute and friendly, but they're not the native songbirds' friends, and they do, you know, cause a lot of damage and harm to them. I'm just following this track now and I make my way down to a small stream. You can really hear those birds singing now, and that sun is starting to push through the clouds. This has turned into a really enjoyable walk. So I'm just making my way down to a gateway, and that will give me access to the last stretch of this footpath. You can just make your way over the gate here, or you can lift this chain up. It's not, you know, the easiest of things, but you know, it's definitely doable. So there, just dropped it back over like that, and we're good to make our way down to the stream. When this stream is in full flood, which it occasionally does get, you know, a lot of water moving down here, these stepping stones then do come into their own. They have been moved. I would suggest, you know, young kids playing around here, but they are actually here to actually cross the actual river, and they do, or stream shall I say, and they do make a difference. The ground is always wet down here as well, so when it is really wet, a pair of boots really does come very much in handy. But now I'll be climbing back out of the valley up through this particular section of path, and I've just stumbled upon my first real big, well, patch of bluebells. I've come across one or two on their own so far, but there is definitely a patch there. It won't be long, probably just another week, and they will start all coming out. You can just see the remnants of an old track and a path here, and there's quite a few of them dotted around in this woodland. It's been fenced off, and obviously it's been like that for a while because there's young trees growing through it. But obviously there's another track going down through the woodlands there, and in this particular woodlands there's lots of varieties of plants that technically shouldn't be here, which is why you can surmise that this woodland was artificially planted and used for like ornate gardens or something of that nature. Because if you look down through, you might just be able to see some pink flowers down there in amongst those trees. There's a tree down there with big pink petaled flowers on it. I'm not sure what that actually is. You can easily see it from here. So yeah, I just got a feeling that this, you know, part of this woodland was planted for shall we say ornamental shall we say looks, and another part was planted or was allowed to stay native for sporting use in days gone by. I just stopped here to take a breather and take in the view, because from the break in the tree canopy here I can look up onto the high ground of the moors. It's not very far. In fact, from this river it would be all uphill till you actually reach the high ground. And you can see Minions and the cheese ring from here. And I'll spin you around and hopefully get some of that on film so that you can see it and just appreciate the view that I have from here. So, tracking down through the woodland, you now see the pasture and fields. The river would be nestled in amongst those trees, and looking up you can just see cheese ring and indeed the actual quarry itself. Now if I try to zoom in on that, you can see it a little bit more clearer now if I try to get out of the branches. But It's quite hazy, and that is due to it actually starting to warm up. I mean, I'm in a t-shirt now, but I will get up onto the high ground and do a video of some of the tracks and walks that you can do up there. But it's a fantastic view from here, and I'll bring you back down to where I'm looking from here, and that's what I'm seeing. Although I suspect probably a little bit clearer than what you may be getting it on film. This is the last gate I have to negotiate on this actual footpath, over some old tree roots, making my way through and back up, continually going uphill. A little bit of a theme when you leave the river, it's uphill. So basically I came to the top of that footpath, hit the lane and walked back down to the car park, and my car is here. I'm going to make my way home. That's been a thoroughly pleasant walk, and indeed I've met a couple of people and had a chat with on that last section of road walking down to the car park. And as I said, the sun is out. It's not blistering hot, but it's warm enough to be pleasant, and a t-shirt has made this, shall we say, a very enjoyable walk. And yeah, I'm going to call this a day. I hope you enjoyed that little circular walk through my little part of Cornwall. This is Andy from Folklore Hiking Sticks. All the best and take care.